Action!
Okay. Alright mate, I'm Mel. Wild garlic, otherwise known as Ramsons, is right at the end of its season right now, so I've come out for a forage and I thought I'd teach you how it's done. It's the first leaf that I'd recommend anybody learn how to forage because it's so simple to identify, it's really easy to find, it's absolutely everywhere. And there's only really one look-alike that might harm you, and once you know how to identify it, it's very simple to make sure that you don't pick that by mistake. So let's do it. Okay, so you can only pick wild garlic for a short amount of time in the year, and it will vary depending on exactly where you are and the timings of the seasons, which change a little bit every year. Normally it will start showing around February to March time, and it will start dying off and going away for the rest of the summer around May or June. Right now it's mid-May and it's right at the end of the season. You can see some of the leaves have some damage and there's no buds left. So wild garlic grows absolutely everywhere. Probably you've seen it a million times and not even thought to notice it. It grows very commonly in shaded, damp woodlands and around the fringes of woodlands where it's nice and cool, still shaded, still damp, and alongside rivers and on riverbanks is completely abundant. You will probably find it in any local woods that you walk through. I have a few important safety points and tips that I'd like to recommend to you as well. One is that I would say you should probably use a knife when you're picking these and just pick them one by one. Mainly because you're going to protect the integrity of the plant and get the best quality leaves to come home with you. But also because when you're picking in bunches, it's going to damage the plant. It's not a very sustainable way to pick forage foods. And also there is one dangerous lookalike that lives quite commonly among wild garlic. So if you're picking the leaves in bunches, you can't be sure that you haven't picked one of these other leaves, which I will show you in a minute. You're also going to want to watch out for contaminants. Make sure that it doesn't have anything like bird poo or dog mess on it. Of course you can wash your leaves when you get them home, but you just want the nicest quality thing to take with you if you're going to forage it. Also, on a legal note, you're allowed to forage almost the whole plant, so the leaves, the stems, the flowers, they can all come with you, but you're not allowed to dig up the plant, the bulbs, the roots, without the landowner's permission, so only take what you can see above the ground. So now in terms of identifying it, which is the most important thing to make sure that you're safely foraging, the smell is the most easily what is the word for that?
Identifiable.
Yeah, the smell is easily the most prominent identifier. You'll probably smell it before you see it because it has a really strong, oniony, garlicky smell. It's characteristic of alliums, a family of plant which these are part of. And anytime you smell that smell, you can almost guarantee they're going to be around nearby. You can smell it the whole time when they're open, but it's most prominent when the flowers have opened and bloomed, and then the smell is just so strong. Most woodlands you walk through and you can't help but notice it's there. The flowers are one of the next things that you can use to identify, and they will always grow on a long, thin, perfectly round green stem. Earlier in the season, they are small bud-shaped, which I can't show you now because we're too late in the season, I'm afraid, but later in the season, and for most of the season, the buds have opened up into clusters of flowers, which are very easy to identify. They always have 6 small white petals, so you can be sure that that's wild garlic. So the leaves is the part of the plant that you can see at any time when it's in season, and they basically don't change except for in size. They can quite easily grow to be bigger than my hand, although obviously earlier in the season you're going to find smaller leaves. The shape of the leaf is almost like an elongated sort of pointy oval with one point at the tip. And you'll find that the veins, rather than running out from the centre of the stem outwards, they run from the bottom of the stem all the way up to the top of the leaf. And then also when you look at it, it has an entire margin, so it's not serrated in any way and the margin is perfectly smooth. You can also see that it's the right leaf by, if you rub it, then it will go translucent and kind of rip quite easily and go almost wet like a tissue paper or something like that. It doesn't hold very nicely, even though it's quite waxy. And then you can be completely sure because it smells really strongly of garlic once you've crumpled the leaf. Oh my god, I got a bug on my face. Wild garlic is also one of the safest plants to forage, just because there's only really one dangerous lookalike that you need to be aware of. It's called Lords and Ladies, and it can grow very commonly and right in the middle of wild garlic patches. Like I said earlier, that's why you don't want to pick in bunches. At some points in the season it has this quite sort of majestic looking flower attached to the plant, but it's the leaves that you'd like to be aware of. They're harder to mistake when they're more mature because they end up with these sort of pointy collars on the bottom, which wild garlic never has. But when they're smaller, younger leaves, they can look surprisingly similar to wild garlic. So you really want to be sure that you haven't picked that. And when you get home, it's always worth just checking through your leaves and making sure that you haven't mistakenly slipped one in there, because you really don't want to eat that. But now I've shown you how we pick it, we're going to forage a load of this ourselves, go back home to the kitchen, and I'll show you some recipes and how you can cook with it. The first thing I always do when I get my leaves home is just to wash through them all individually and check to make sure I've only got the right thing. And then these are like a few ways that I like to cook with wild garlic during the spring. So the first one's wild garlic salt. You can see the leaves there are dehydrated. I did that in my dehydrator, but you can do it in the oven. Now, I don't measure this precisely, but take maybe around 100 grams of dried wild garlic and add that to 100 grams of salt in the food processor. Then I blend that together and I keep it going for absolutely ages. The salt is going to be really fine, but you want the wild garlic to be like really fine as well. And it'll get almost slightly like a paste, like from the oils in the wild garlic. And then I get another maybe, I don't know, 800, 900 grams of salt, and I just mix it together with the mix I've made. Make sure it's really well evenly distributed, and as long as the garlic itself is dry, it's going to last for absolutely months, like 6 months or something. Nice, yeah. Oh yeah, nice, garlicky. Wow. The second thing I always make is some wild garlic butter. This lasts in the freezer for ages as well. So I got 250 grams like softened already, and I chop up, again, I don't really measure this, like a big bunch, a big handful, 100 grams I'm guessing, of wild garlic, and I get that in the food processor with it. Then I like to add some lemon zest. I just feel like it balances out the flavour, like lemon and wild garlic go together so nicely. And I blend that together until it's really fine. Like I don't like big chunks of wild garlic, and I like it to be like a green butter throughout. To store my butter, it keeps in the freezer really nicely this way, or in the fridge, and it's just really easy to use. I turn it into a boudin, which is like French for sausage basically. So I lay out cling film, like 2 or 3 layers, form my butter into kind of a sausage shape, like along that, and then I can like press it in, roll it out, get all of the air bubbles out, and it's ready to go. How much? The rest can go back away. Oh my goodness.
Do you want to seal it again?
Look at that.
1 second, perhaps here. That's it, let me focus. Oh. Look at that.
Doesn't that look so good? The next thing I try to make every spring is wild garlic pesto. So I get some Parmesan cheese, like say 60 grams, grate that up nice and fine. Then I get my wild garlic. I don't weigh this, I just get like a big clean bunch, chop that through. Roughly it's going to go in the food processor anyway, so it doesn't really matter if it's too fine. Then, as I did with the butter, I had quite a lot of lemon into this recipe. I go in with the zest, this one I used over half of the lemon. It just goes together so nicely. I taste it as I go anyway. Then I chuck my grated Parmesan in and I add olive oil. The nicest stuff you can afford, honestly. This was just basic, like extra virgin. And I just continually add my ingredients as they're ready, like into the food processor. And while all this other prep has been going on, I've been really slowly toasting my pine nuts in the back, just so that they don't burn, but they release all of their nice oils. And I let them cool down, add them into the food processor, and then I set it off. I'm aiming for like a really fine pesto. I don't really like chunky bits, and at the end I can season to taste. It's looking pretty pesty. I like to put mine into a Kilner jar, and then it stores for like up to 3 months. I think it would be fine, although in reality it just never lasts that long. It's one of my favourite things of the year that I can forage and make. We combined all the things we made for dinner, so we chopped up a bunch of shallots that we could fry off in that wild garlic butter. These turned out to be like sweet and garlicky and just really wonderful, salty, fab. We were aiming for a nice crispy skin on the salmon, which we 100% succeeded, so I cooked it like 95%, more like 75% on the skin, and then the last like 25% of the time on the other side, because I quite like when you have those like brown, not crispy, but like, I don't know, almost caramelized sides of the salmon. I like it. Boiled up some pasta, pesto pasta, what a surprise, predictable, but this is elite, I'm telling you. The garlic, unreal, and this pasta shape, I mean, look, it just catches it all so well. All right, I'm gonna be quiet while we play it up now. Look at this, perfection.
Yeah.
Sweet. You pleased about that? Nice one, so worth it.
That's delicious, let's go, eat properly.
Yeah.